Ooh, that looks tasty. Good morning, Percival. Oui, oui. We have a case. It is the most important case we have done in many moons. You know how I love les poissons. Well, this morning I went and checked the icebox, and les poissons, it is gone. It is a very important mystery of the case of the missing poisson. Welcome, folks, to the Hungry Gamers, back with another game review. And today we are talking about Chronicles of Crime, Millennium Series 1400, designed by David Sicurel and Wojciech Krakowski, and published by Lucky Duck Games. And I do sincerely apologize for horribly mispronouncing those names. Now, before I get started, please make sure you turn on your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any errors in the brief rules description, that's where you'll find the corrections. And so what Chronicles of Crime 1400 is, it is the latest edition in the Chronicles of Crime series, which includes Chronicles of Crime Noir, and so on and so forth. And this is the first of the Millennium series, which is a series of 3 games that takes place in 3 different time periods in history. This one taking place in the 1400s in France. And what you're going to be doing is, this is an app-based game where you're going to be trying to solve a variety of mysteries that are decently story heavy, going through figuring out who committed the crimes, and then at the end you will have to answer a series of questions, and if you get them all right, you get a higher score. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played and just want to jump ahead to my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk quickly about how this game is played. So what's going to happen is you're going to place this board out on the table in front of you. And the top part here, as you can see, is for any clues that you have actually found in the game. And you'll understand that in just a few minutes. Then towards the bottom, we have this blue section, which is where you put clues that you don't actually have, but you have heard about. You know that they exist in some form or other. Then at the bottom is where you put various people that you know about, but you don't know where they are. Over here, we have our trusty hound, Percival, who is with you at all times, and you can always take clues and have Percival sniff it and follow whatever scent that there is. Then over here, you have your home base, and this is the only one of these cards that you will always use in every single game. And at the house, you have your brother the spy, your uncle the monk, and the merchant. I can't remember if that's your sister or what her deal is, but those are always there, and you can always go and ask them about various people and items that you find. They might give you more insight into what's going on. Then over here, I just have one of the wide variety of different locales that you can go to. Each of these are double-sided, and there's more in the box. Though the main thing that you use is the app here. Now, I'm going to launch into the tutorial simply because I don't want to give anything away, and I'm just going to kind of jump into the middle of it and show you how it works. So one of the ways that you're going to score is going to be based on how fast you can solve the crime. And every time you talk to somebody or you examine something, you move somewhere, you're going to advance through the day. But the core mechanic of the game is you're using these QR codes on the various locations. So for example, to go back to my house, I would simply scan the QR code and it would take me there. In this case, I'm already at that location. Or if you want to talk to somebody, whether it be one of the people in a home or someone else that you come across during the game, you simply scan their spot and you'll see, "Welcome, little brother. Let me guess you found another object that you need me to tell you about," and so on. And then so you could continue on. And then if I had an item that I found, for example, this one right here, I could then scan that. In this case, since this one is just a random one that I pulled from the stack, forgive me, I can't tell you anything interesting about this. But the point is, you get the idea of how that works. And in addition to that, as you're playing through the game, you will be finding other locations, and the places that you can go will slowly be expanding. And as you do that, you will find various people that are at each of these locations. In addition to that, some of the locations will be a crime scene or somewhere that you can look around. And now, there is no way that I can actually show you how this works effectively, but what will happen is you will use the app and you will explore a location, and then one person literally stands up holding in my case, the iPad, and they turn around and they move the iPad or your phone, whatever it is, and they see the scene. And while they're looking at the scene, you only have about a minute or 2 minutes, whatever it is, to view the scene. you're calling out what it is that you see. And as you're calling things out, the other players on your team are going through and they're finding in the big stack of cards all the things that could be. So you say, oh, there's a bag of popcorn in the corner. Of course, it wouldn't be a bag of popcorn in this era, but you get the idea. So maybe they would grab bags and sacks. Or maybe they're like, oh, that sounds like trash. So maybe they grab trash. Maybe there is a toy box at the foot of the bed. Well, maybe that's games and toys. On the other hand, maybe that's just boxes and packaging. And so you get the idea. And so as you're calling things out, people are grabbing these and pulling them out. Now these then become your clues. And then after you're done, you go back to the app and you can examine each of these things that you find. And the app will tell you, after you've examined it, it'll say, this is what you found. And yes, that is, in fact, a clue. And so then it tells you to put it here. Now that's something that you have and you can talk to people about as you're playing the game to try to get clues to figure out the answer to whatever the crime happens to be. Sometimes there's also things that are more specific, like this here is very clearly a fancy book. But again, I think you understand how it works. And so you're going to play through, you're going location to location, you're finding clues, you're examining the clues, you're asking all kinds of different people about these various clues as you're trying to get the information that you need to figure out, again, who it is that committed whatever the crime is. Then when you think you know, you go back to your home and you attempt to solve the case. And what happens is the app will ask you various questions, and depending on how well you do, that determines your score. And then also you can see what the actual solution is as well, so you can see how close you were in your thinking. And so that's it. That is how this game works. So currently there are 5 different stories that you can play in Chronicles of Crime 1400, and each one takes about an hour to 2 hours to play. So what do I like about this game? First off, I think the app integration is really, really strong in this. The way that you look around and you explore the scene, it really does work well. And they have it done to where there's enough stuff to keep it interesting. There's plenty of stuff that is red herrings, but it's not a ton of stuff. So you're never too distracted by too many things being there. I also like the way that they have done these cards here, because the categories are just broad enough to where things can fall into 1 or 2 of them. But from my experience, they're not so broad that there might be 4 and 5 different categories that one thing that you see might fall into. I also think the game is pretty darn attractive. I like this art style that we have. I especially like the different locations. I think these locations just look fantastic. I'm very much impressed by the locations here. Along with that, I think the writing of the stories are pretty darn good. And then along with that, some of the things that my understanding is have been added for this one from the base game, I think all of those work really well. The 2 that I'll call out are, 1, the dog. It's just awesome to have the dog with you. 1, because it comes into the story where sometimes some people react positively to it, sometimes people react negatively to it. But the fact that you always have this other option of an expert that is there with you, as opposed to in the original game, you had to go back to the crime lab to talk to anybody. It's just really delightful to have this dog running around with you that can do something and help you out and often save you a lot of time if you're clever with it. And it also gives a little more personality to the faceless character that you are playing. And the other thing is, and now this may be in the base game, but I don't think it is, if you're going off in the wrong direction, the game will occasionally throw you a bone, to continue playing off the dog metaphor here. So my wife and I were playing, and we were getting distracted by minutia, and then suddenly a street urchin came up and said, so-and-so told me to come find you because this big important thing just happened at this place. And I'm being vague so I don't spoil anything. But what that did is it saved us from wasting a whole bunch of time and getting distracted. And I think that is very, very clever and well done. It wasn't overt, but it did get us to go to the next place so we didn't get stuck. And the timing on it was really pretty darn solid. I also have to point out that, once again, Lucky Duck has a pretty darn strong production. Look at this thing right here. It's a lovely box, a lovely insert. It's compact, it's small, it has just enough stuff in there, it's not overwhelming, and for the price point of I think about $30, I think you're getting a good value for what's in there. The only quibble, and I want to move right into my quibbles now that I have with the production, is this mat here, it doesn't lie perfectly flat. That's it. So all around, I think this production on the game is quite good. But let's continue into what my quibbles are with the game. And my first quibble with the game is it takes up a shockingly large amount of space. As it turns out, my wife and I, we were playing it on our large dining room table where we can fit 8 people around it. And we'd set it up on half of it, and suddenly, before we knew it, we were moving the vase out of the center of the table. And we had covered almost 2/3 of this huge table with these cards and things because we had all the locations were out there, and it just really does kind of start to spread out. So that was surprising to me. And then the other thing that I'll point out is there is no replay value in this game, at least to my knowledge, my understanding. And I do believe that there will be some more stories down the road. But as it is, once you play through all the stories in the game, that's it, you're done. Now, that might not bother you because, again, the price point is actually pretty low on this, but there is only 5 stories. And once you have solved the mystery, well, that's it. You're not going to play it again. There's really no point. Really, that's it. I think if you enjoyed the original Chronicles of Crime, then you're going to like this one. And in my opinion, this one is better than the original Chronicles of Crime. It feels a little more streamlined, and the additions of the dog and the hints, and I didn't even mention these yet. At the beginning of each story, you get this vision. You'll get a vision of a couple of these cards. And again, these I just pulled at random from the deck, but these visions that are your dream the night before you have your case, and it just helps you ever so slightly as you're going, as you're starting to look. So, oh gosh, there's got to be some clues somewhere that have to do with a priest and, I don't know, someone with a burning hand or whatever that is, and someone being attacked. Like, those visions start to make sense as you go through the game. And so all around, I think if you are into these detective games where you're trying to figure out what's going on, I think this is a good option. I think this is a fun game. My wife is a huge fan of it, so we will certainly finish out all of the stories without question. And then we'll probably be able to pass this on to somebody else who will enjoy it just as much. And again, it's a very small box, very easy to do. But there you have it, folks. That is Chronicles of Crime 1400, the first of the Millennium series. As always, if I made any mistakes in the brief rules description, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp. I'll get that into the Klingon subtitles. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.